getting into DLF, not being part of the family, but still getting in, reaching very high level, and doing great things with DLF. How did that journey start?
I only have one major vice.
The people around you played and the relationships that you've built over a period of time played to enable you to be able to do what you have done.
People don't get motivated with only paychecks. You must stop for people who need you. Every day is a learning. No matter what you do in life, you have to learn from your own experiences. Regression starts from that day. If you're investing for the first time in real estate, is in every Indian's DNA. People teach you a lot. Circumstances teach you. You're actually fighting that battle on a daily basis. Nothing comes easy.
Let's start with your journey into real estate, how you got into it. DLF is like getting into DLF, not being part of the family, but still getting in, reaching a very high level, and doing great things with DLF. How did that journey start? What was that like?
Well, my journey in DLF started with golf actually,
Mm-hmm.
and I was earlier with a company called Sterling, and I was seconded to Dubai. I came back from there, and DLF picked me up from there. But it wasn't that easy as it's sounding. It was a tough, over 1.5 hour interview with the Chairman Emeritus, Mr. KP Singh. He grilled me hard because I was coming from a project which wasn't doing too well, and whereas at that point in time, the entire focus was to hire people from the ITC golf course and that business. So he kept pushing me back, and I kept giving my point of view as to why I was doing well and why that company didn't want to release me, and so on and so forth. But end of about over an hour, I realized that this isn't going anywhere. So I mustered up courage and I asked him, I said, "May I ask you something?" He says, "Yes." I said, "In a train wreck, how can you blame a TT?" So he said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Look, my job was to collect revenues and look after customers, look after whatever little operation. But I was doing a great job. But whatever happened. So that kind of, I think, resonated with him, and rest is all history. And he hired me, and then he groomed me, and of course, so the DLF, the golf club journey started. Then I took over the golf business in its entirety. So I joined DLF in 1998, and 2003 or 4 I took over the golf business. I was the youngest general manager. And then one thing that I realized very early in that was that we had to make the operations at least cash neutral, if not do a little bit of a profit, But the focus was to keep it cash neutral, because otherwise you'd always go back to the parent company and ask for money. Development processes, infra processes would get compromised, because it's an opportunity cost of money. So what do you do with that? Do you look at the future? Do you upgrade capital products? You look at, you are saying you're better than the best, but are you doing stuff that is what golf courses all over the world do, the good ones? So that was a challenge. But then we had a lot of these partners like American Express, Reebok, Nike, Citibank, Gold that time, Mercedes. All these guys then joined in, and I kind of had these partners as sponsors, and then we started to mitigate a lot of our costs, and then kind of got on to making it a very profitable venture. So that was golf. And from golf we moved on, and once I did that, I got an opportunity. The present chairman, Mr. Rajiv Singh, he said, "Well, we were making the new golf course with Gary Player." He said, "Why don't you do that?" I got into that. That was a great learning, because I'm not a civil engineer. I come from a business background, but that was a great learning. How to get into development business. I think that was my first foray into managing development, and that was a huge task by itself. Making the new golf course, and that was an exciting opportunity. From there, I did a little bit of an infra. I got into operations, the super luxury operations. I'd already by then taken over the marketing for DLF 5. We were building a completely new ecosystem, DLF 5, that is very unlike what DLF had done so far. That was was going to be the next big thing that DLF would do, super luxury. And that's it. And then 2014, I was given sales, saying that, look, you've done everything else, why don't you look after sales for super luxury? So that happened, and that was, then I got into real estate management and marketing and sales and everything else. And again, 2017 Gurgaon came to me, and rest of India 2018. So that is the journey in brief.
That's an incredible journey. You mentioned DLF 5, right? With something like the pandemic that just happened and consumer preferences changing significantly, I would assume probably bigger houses, more community-based interest in where they live, because now you work from home a lot more. So how have these patterns changed over the years, and what really makes a project and a development future-proof? Like, what does that mean?
You know, after the first COVID that hit, I think, you know, at that point in time, there was so much of doubt. Forget about skepticism. We didn't know what was happening. Nobody knew, okay? And obviously it was reasonable amount of fear. You know, we didn't know where the business is going to go. Everybody had, at that point in time, already like the favorite part for everybody is to beat down real estate. And they said, oh, you know what, this is the end of the condominium story and nothing's going to happen now, and who's going to live like this? People who want to be living in open, independent homes, and you know, you breathe well, you do this, you do that, and whatever. So, and that time these webinars had started, conferences, you know, all on web and all. I remember in one of them, there were two stalwarts of the industry who said it's doomsday, whereas, you know, on a more ground level, I was reading something completely different. I was reading, and I'm on record saying this then, not now, very early I saw and I read something different. So I read that people, after the first COVID, everybody was boxed in, you know, and people, the first thing that people wanted to do post that was to get out, get a larger home, and definitely with larger balconies. Okay, that's the first thing that I picked up. Whereas everybody else was saying, oh, you know what, people are not going to, now it's thing, they're going to be scared, nobody's going to invest in anything, and this is it. Whereas and not only that, I also picked up post that people asking me if DLF was doing beach homes or mountain homes, you know, so completely contrary to what a lot of people were saying. And whereas, so after the first COVID, we started office on 3rd of May, and the senior colleague of mine, I called him, I said, look, it's entirely up to you. Do you want to, you know, join back? He said yes. Some other people wanted to, because everybody wanted it out, right? But what that taught us is that what people were scared about is how are they going to be serviced. God forbid a situation like that arises. The first COVID, thank God, was not, as you know, that lethal, but it allowed us, it was like a semi-final. It allowed us to prepare for the second onslaught. So what did we do? This golf club, in the second one, we shut this down. We had, again, completely voluntary. We had people, about almost 200-300 team members who camped here, who were of service to the entire DLF 5 community. So what were we doing? Oxygen cylinders, food, medicines. In some very unfortunate circumstances, we also did some last rites, you know, for some of our owners who were stuck in outside the country, and you know, one of the parents passed away. So we've kind of done a lot of stuff that we are actually known for. DLF is known for the post-sale relationships rather than, so we don't, it's not a sale and then you turn your back and then scoot, you know. That changed the way people looked at real estate and condominium living, because what really happened after that was that because and people who were living in independent homes were stranded. They didn't know who to reach out to. Whereas this mammoth army that we had set up was completely at service for people, and that people never forgot, because they were in great gratitude. Forever they kind of quote that, and they supported us. So in fact, that once we put a massive kind of a support system and backed the residents, that became a massive goodwill gesture, and people would then recommend to their friends and family and everybody else to live in a DLF property.
So much of what you've said, there's the strength of the people that really determine the strength of the overall product, right? And it seems like you mentioned the post-sale relationship, you mentioned how you created a mammoth army. Within your own journey, what role has the people around you played and the relationships that you've built over a period of time played to enable you to be able to do what you have done?
So, you guys are youngsters, let me tell you something. People have always come first to me. Okay? You may have big brands, you may have big companies, you may have things, but who's going to do the job? It's the people, right? People don't get motivated with only paychecks. You have to stand by your people, you have to work with your people. There are times that, a lot of times there are misunderstandings, a lot of people don't understand you. You know, the relationships also break. You know, you have those situations as well. But overall, if people understand you and you are with them in their time of need, that relationship that will be built, that will further strengthen your resolve and theirs, and will help you deliver things faster and better, because ultimately it's them. Rest is, you have great brands, you have great companies, but you have these people who take the entire story forward. And that is what is the key for any business to succeed. Forget about services business, I'm talking about any business. If you have people who are passionate, who enjoy what they're doing, and you can nurture them, you can groom them, you can direct them, they'll do anything for you. But they must have a purpose, like you and me, right? If you have to get up in the morning and say, oh my God, I have to go to work, where do you think that'll lead to? Forget productivity. People will just go there to just punch in and punch out. But if you work with your people, if you make it an inclusive growth model, and both for blue collar and white collar, remember that. When you're able to do things for people, and especially them who look up to you, you have to stop, you have to cater to them and then move on. This is a rat race where all of us are there and we are like pelting like crazy. There's some goddamn thing that, is going on. But life lesson is, you have to stop. You must stop for people who need you. You're not going to slow down, don't worry. There'll be a bypass made for you. You'll go ahead of a lot of people who you think are ahead of you. But always, so that's what I was saying. People, once they are with you, you can scale anything.
That's quite a phenomenal representation, I think. We're much younger in our careers, but it's something that we're starting to learn very early on, is the importance of people. Having been around a very wide variety of different people that have worked as subordinates, people that have, you had an incredible interview with Mr. KP Singh. Have there been any humbling lessons about leadership that you may have learned in that process?
Every day is a learning. You have to learn from your peers, you also have to learn from your juniors, you also have to learn, obviously look up to people who you consider mentors and people who you consider have done what they've done, and learn from their experiences as well. But no matter what you do in life, you have to learn from your own experiences. No matter what you tell me, I'm going to still go and do the same mistake, depending on how much it kind of hurts me or puts me back. But what generally happens is, to your point, when you are actually talking to people, when you're observing them, you kind of tend to pick up a lot of things that you want to. Again, it comes from within. Okay? It has to be something that you want to do first. People can push you to a point. Beyond that, if you're not driven, if you don't think that there's a purpose, you're not going to be pushed around. You'll dismiss everything. But if you listen to people, every day is a learning. Trust me. No matter which level in life you are in, as long as you keep listening, people will, give you their point of view. If you don't, you think you know it all, regression starts from that day.
We've focused a lot on relationships, and so like when you're talking to someone new, when you're meeting someone for the first time, when you're interviewing someone, how do you know if their purpose actually aligns with yours? Like you've been with DLF for 26, 27 years, something like that. That's a very long time. And when you look at the newer generation now, the job hopping, they're going from one job to another every year, 2 years, 3 years. How do you identify what people's goals are, what their purpose is in that short window where you're just speaking to them, interviewing them, or whatever the case may be?
I don't.
Okay.
Because no matter what you tell people, at that point in time, they're at their best. Nobody's going to tell you what their faults are, right? So the best thing to do in these things which I follow is I see a basic fitment. How a person is talking, how are they dressed, what is their basic agenda. Because then in any case we have to debrief them. Your DLF has a completely different way of working. Our commitment levels are completely different from what anybody else does, and same with absolute respect to everybody else. That's our ideology, and we follow it. But when people come in, I do tell them that, look, please understand one thing very clearly, what you're getting into. All this, the glamour and you come in with this whole thing with stars in your eyes, oh my God, DLF, this going to be, yes, DLF, absolutely. But what has it taken to build this organization? There's sweat and blood of so many people who've kind of, made various platforms that you guys are now going to get onto. So for me, beyond that, I don't really look at beyond, some of these 8-10 things that I kind of quiz people on. And I do tell them what they're getting into. That's my first thing. I like to clear the wool from the eyes, and I tell them, I say, look, you must understand that this is going to be a tough job, because commitments aren't easy to make. A lot of times people do talk about work-life balance. Again, that is something each to their own, everybody's priority, what people really want to do, right? I can't speak for people, and I don't. They have to decide what they want to do. I have not come across anybody who's made it in life who's not really slogged. I hear some famous film stars, I hear famous industrialists, I hear famous entrepreneurs. I hear all of them, and the common link that I take out of all of them is that they've had to slog 7 days a week. There comes a time in life that you really have to pelt. Okay. Then there comes a time in life that you can slow down. There comes a time in life that there are laybys that you just take and just chill, relax. That's what makes it. You can't just continue to do what you're doing, otherwise you'll burn out, right? That's what you need to see. But with people around that time, what I feel that at the entry level, if you tell them what they are going to get into, or what is the commitment which is sought, from them, I think that's the first step. Because you have to tell a person straight on the face. There's no point beating about the bush there, because there is a huge commitment, right, that we have. Today when people say, oh, DLF sold out in one day, how's DLF sold out in one day? Because there is a certain amount of customer backing. How do you come around that customer? There are still challenges, there are still customers who we've not been able to satisfy. I mean, they're thankfully very small percentage, but there still are people, you can't please them all. But do we as a company, as a team, as individuals, do we go out of our way to continue to make sure that our customers' lives are as pleasurable in their homes as we can make them? We do that every day. Not only homes that we building for the future, but we go back and partner, support, guide, mentor, macro level relationships that we've established with all our customers all over. So again, I say with caution, I say that no matter what we do, we can't just I'd say get things done for everybody, but at least we try.
It's always that interesting balance, right, on that spectrum of fear versus trust in such a customer-centric business that I'm sure you have to continue to try, continue to remodel, modify. Having seen the growth that you have, especially with DLF 5, and just the development between Aralias, Magnolias, Camellias now, Dahlias coming out as well, how have you approached innovation? How do you continue to reinvent yourself in the process to make sure that you're satisfying every possible subset of customers while staying true to the brand that you're building?
Individually, or are you talking about the process?
Individually.
Okay. So see, what happens here is that you have to, as I said to you, continue to listen, continue to innovate on a regular basis. Regular. Okay. Learning must not stop. In fact, I must tell you another thing that you must know that. So I was again the first person in DLF to be sent to Harvard. This was way back in 2015, and I remember that conversation Chairman had. He said, "Look, you're also the guinea pig, and you're also the biggest beneficiary. So should things work well, a lot of other people will then benefit from this particular process that we're trying to set." And I think the time that I was taking that flight, I have to confess, sometimes you feel that, oh, you've done it all, and you know it all, like I was saying to you. And I was saying, what are these guys going to teach me that I don't already know? Okay. 3 days into the course, and I thought I was scum of the earth because I knew nothing, because there was these 140 odd top CEOs of all companies from all over the world in that course, one better than the other, sharper than the other, brighter, faster, and there you are, you're just, even before you are thinking, they're already answering, and you learn amongst those peers, and then you say, my God, thank God you got an opportunity. So, and again, I am a big proponent that, post, generally what happens is, please, your teas are here, so otherwise this tea has to be drunk hot. So, what happens is that post our when we start working, then we do theory so much, then we get into practicality, the chalk and cheese. But you have to continue to see how every 5 years, if you can go back to some kind of learning, you should, because that was transformational. The whole story was transformational. Okay. What you learned, and of course institutions like that are obviously meant to be, right? But how much is it that, again, as I say, how much you want to learn? So continue to innovate, because if you don't innovate, I learned this from DLF, every 10 years DLF innovated, did a newer thing, maybe old wine but new bottle, but a brilliantly new bottle. Okay, so you're not, a lot of times you're not inventing things, you're not completely inventing new processes and procedures, but you are bettering them. Sometimes, you see what other people do, you kind of think global but act local, see in the systems of how you want to do what you want to do, and then you create them. So innovation is something that I feel is important. Going with the times is important. Most importantly, what the customer wants and how is the customer perceiving you. We can't be sitting on any high horse thinking, oh, what, we are whoever we are. and we will tell you what to do. But another quote that really moved me was Steve Jobs when he said, "I'm going to tell what the customer actually wants," and which is true because again, it drives. It's that passion that he made that product, and he knew it's going to do well because why he made that statement probably was because the practicality of using a phone or a computer, right? Whereas everybody else was kind of going around circles. He said, "Look, I'll be more direct. I'll be more simple. I'll be doing whatever I'll be doing, and I'm going to tell the customer what they actually want." Maybe in that way, I subscribe to that too. I feel that without the arrogance, you have to. That's your job. See, it's like a brand does apparel, right? They know their job better, or should I go and tell them, you know what, I want sky blue, but why do you have this lapel? Why don't you have this zip here? Why? If they start listening to you that way, then a product will get onto the drawing board, and to the finish it will take probably 40 years. So you have to continue. See, there are people designated to do jobs. You must allow them to do that job. Okay? And you must have the conviction, confidence to do that job and deliver. So overall, you must know what people want overall. And then you better that expectation. You fine tune it because you know that you know how to do that job better than anybody else. Right? That's when you have to lead. So in life, there are times that you're leading, there are times that you are being led. You just have to create that balance for yourself. You don't know everything. Let some people, even in relationships, some people, talk about or lead something, and then follow, learn, maybe improvise, get better, do something better. But always listen.
I see why you drink this tea a lot. It's really nice. But on the topic of learning, if you were 25 right now, in 2025, how would you make your first CR, then reach the 5 CR mark, and then the 10 CR mark? What knowledge would you want to gather? How would you gather it, and how would you apply it?
First CR, you mean crore?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, just this morning, how uncanny is that? This morning, I was, generally, what a little time that you have to yourself. I'd just gone back exactly, not 25, but maybe 30 years of my life. And at that point in time, I had no inclination of the numbers that you talk about. And thankfully, okay, I see a lot of youngsters today. I tell them, do a great job, money will follow. But you chase money, you are going to cut corners, you want to get ahead of yourself, and there is no way that you're going to succeed. So I was just reminiscing, and it's amazing you asked me this question just now, because, and I'm so grateful that at that point in time, I just did what I enjoyed doing, okay, every day. And every day I went back to that same job. Somewhere down the line, everything gets monotonous, right? You have to create the nuance, you have to create the happiness for yourself. Nobody else is going to come and do it. So you have to do that job better, or, take out other ways to do it better. And if you do it better for yourself and for everybody around you, it's even more. So you have such a big task here. So you start looking at others, you start looking at other responsibilities, you start looking at doing that thing so beautifully well that you set the tone for what business opportunities that come by. But again, I probably hit into money country only when maybe I joined the super luxury business and I took over the sales thing, and then you started to get your incentives and all that, and that's when you kind of realize that, well, you can be you can make money as well by doing what you're doing and what you like doing. But before that, there was a hell of a lot of work to establish that. Okay, to convince people. Please understand one thing, it's a tough job, and at those times in 2014-15 to sell super luxury was not easy, because the beauty about us human beings is that we know about everything about the future, and we know everything about the other person's job and their lives, not ours. So we can trash anything and with conviction, whereas we don't listen to the people who are actually committing themselves and building that whole story. And that's what I went through. I didn't have anybody at that point of time standing by me. So it was a tough task to establish super luxury as a product, especially camellias, and to take it global. But at that point of time, it was every day in the morning you had to tell yourself that it's another day, it's going to be a better day, you'll have to put in the effort, and leave it at that. Very difficult, guys, trust me. There's no other way to do it, because you start listening to people from that side. Again, when I said previously, you listen for what's happening, but you have to be, if there are more naysayers around you, my advice to you, learn to zone out, learn to move on, and get down to doing what you want to do. Give it a shot. Why not? And today, the environment is so conducive to you youngsters doing whatever you want to do, pursuing different aspirations and pursuing your passions. And in doing so, fortunately right now you make tons of money, so all ducks are aligned.
For someone who's investing in real estate for the first time, what would you say are some key things to look at from an investment point of view? Actually, yeah, from an investment point of view, what would you look at for an investment project, property development?
So if you ask me, I'm sorry if I come out that way, but if you're investing for the first time in real estate, invest in DLF. And I say it with absolute humility, because you need to start right. And the aspirations that we set, also it's an aspirational brand, so kind of it's something that we also take great pride in. But if you build like that, then it kind of gets you there. What you're going to look at in terms of how you want to, what you look at real estate investments, see, like everything else, whether it's the capital markets or real estate, you have to give it time. There was a time where these fly-by-the-night operators completely messed up the real estate market, because everybody thought you could invest today, exit tomorrow, and yet make money. And there was that very brief time where some of these things happened, and it created a lot of nefarious agendas and activities, right? That, and as everything else in life, you try and circumvent things, it's going to collapse and it's going to fail. So that's what happened, and that created a bad name for the industry. So for people, I was asked in the CNBC award in Mumbai, the same thing, rent or buy, any day buy. And especially when you guys are starting up, set aside a certain amount, which you're in any case renting, right? God forbid you don't want to, there's always an option to, but take better properties, good locations and all that, so you can, there is a process to exit also. But to have your own and to build that, it's a fantastic feeling.
With such a dynamic world though, as you said earlier, there are so many opportunities for people, so many things that they can do. In a sense, I'm with you. I think buying is the right move rather than renting. You never see that money again. But from another perspective, if you buy a home, you're kind of locked into that location, whereas there are so many opportunities all over the world, and it's relatively free-flowing in the sense that you can go anywhere and do anything new. At a young age, do you think it is still good advice to buy a home, invest in that, stay there, or just go wherever opportunity takes you?
No, you must go where opportunity takes you. You must continue to move, learn. But that has nothing to do with buying a home. When you buy a home, it grounds you to a point where you're going to be there, right? Now, if you have to move on, or let me ask, why don't you ask your parents that question? They bought something, they went all over the world, they came back, they had something to fall back on, right? You move back to your own home, or you better that home, you sell that, you create a capital base and you sell that and buy something bigger and better. So it's always good to be, so look at it also from the point of view of an investment. Not only because you're going to be doing something which is just going to be, don't get grounded is okay, but don't get, nothing should be a burden. Okay, you must have the option where, well, these are things that you do, and again, as I say, initially when you're starting up, you don't think of this, right? You do that a little later in life. Another good statistics, let me give you, what has changed the dynamics of real estate, which I've been saying to a lot of in my press interviews as well, is that when I was doing what I was doing, average age where people would actually start would be about 38, 40, that's when you start thinking. 35 onwards you start thinking, and I'm talking about good investments that you want to make in real estate, right? I've seen that shift. India's a young country, average age is about 33 or 34, okay? I've seen the newer investments and newer commitments coming from age groups between 30 to 35. That suddenly opened up a phenomenal opportunity for the country and for real estate in the country. Because now the young couples, and both husband and wife, are now actually, they want to get into making, that doesn't bind them down. I mean, they're okay, fine, but tomorrow, let's say they get a job in Bangalore, they get a job somewhere, they get a job in New York. Nobody is asking you not to move, but you have options. You can either sell what you bought. There are mechanisms to do that, or you can lease it. Right? So it's not a burden, because when you lease it, the maintenance aspect, all that is taken care of. So there's nothing going out there, and still a little bit of a thing adding on, and by the time you come back, there's a good kitty. So you have all the options to do that. So treat real estate as you would treat maybe investments anywhere. Get attached to a point and withdraw when you want to. So, but I say this is my favorite line, real estate is in every Indian's DNA, even yours. You'll figure it out maybe later, but it just comes out in some form or the other, and that's where we've always been told by our grandparents or parents, that when try and get your own roof over your head whenever and as soon as you can, right? So, but you're free to go wherever you want to. This should not be an excuse to bind you down. I've had situations where I've met people who have bought DLF properties, and these are all amazing experiences and conversations, where people have told me that they bought DLF in the 80s, plots, they sold them, they got their daughters married or their sons or daughters educated, then they made some money, then they reinvested again in DLF, that grew, that they did this. So don't, again, if you treat it as an investment, I think one big burden will go off your head, because okay, you know what, I've got that lying. Tomorrow when I want to add on to my business or do whatever, maybe I can dilute that and pump that money back into the system. Think of it like that. Think of it as an asset which you can trade when you want to, but therefore that's the time that you have to choose better assets, companies that are dedicated to doing what they are doing for the task that they are doing. Fine, a lot of people jumped into real estate because it was the hot thing to do, but that was not their primary business. They were just, it was like a mill, things were just coming out, churned out without any thought and action. That also is in a way, so those things reach a certain I'd say level, and then they stagnate. So for real estate, you have to continue to make sure that you are looking at investing in the right real estate.
I love what you said, and it's it's great adjacency also to your own journey, having done so many different things and now seeing real estate the way you are, making global headlines, of course, with the likes of Camellias. If you had to look back at your own career and you've been a loyalist at DLF, what are things that you feel you've learned about yourself that you didn't know in the past and have actually groomed you into being so much better over a period of time at what you're doing?
No, again, see, opportunities, life teaches you a lot. With DLF, every four years or every 5 years or every 4 years rather, I got a new opportunity. I got something completely new to do, backed by the organization. I don't think I would have got a better exposure, whether here or anywhere else in the world. And to do what you're doing. I took ownership of what I did. So I started off being an entrepreneur when I was in, school and college, like the startup idea today. And then at that point in time, the parents were very skeptical. They said, "You get a job. What's wrong with you? What is this thing? You're pushed out of your own dream." But whatever I did, even in DLF, I took ownership of that as if it was mine. And that is how you did what you did, right? No regrets there. That, and therefore when I was saying that, so that entrepreneurial kind of blood keeps boiling, but then I kind of channelize it to what I'm doing. And so every time that you do something, you take that on and you kind of, you feel that can do better, right? So tremendous amount of learning. I can't even, when I write my book, hopefully a lot of that will come out, but I can't tell you. So whether, again, as I go back to the same point, people teach you a lot. Circumstances teach you, opportunities, how you're going to navigate through certain situations, and then you have to see what your goals are. Obviously you have to do something for yourself. If you kind of first set your agendas right, then you kind of get your friends and family's agendas right, and then you get the entire system's agenda right? But you have to focus accordingly. Having said that, very clearly, I won't tell you. So what happens in situations like these is, and I tell all my colleagues this, do whatever best you can for the day. Okay? Beyond a point, everything is a blur. If I tell you, 5 years from now I'm going to do this, 10 years from now, bull. I don't know what's going to happen the next second. There are always people around you who want to bring you down. People get, cagey, people get thing. There's always that you have to navigate also. So it's not that everything's hunky-dory. You're always like, you have to watch your back as well, right? No matter what you think, no matter what you do, you're still misunderstood. So all that's not easy. You're actually fighting that battle on a daily basis. Nothing comes easy. Even if you think that you want to be left alone and you want to pursue your dream, people are, going to set up tripwires for you every 10 meters. So don't think that it's going to be hunky-dory. Nothing is. That's a big learning, and 2-3 times when you kind of fall, when you kind of stabbed in the back, then you realize, okay, I was thinking and this was happening. But that's, honestly, no theoretical training can teach you guys that. You'll have to go through that grind in life. So when you come out of it, you have to just see whether you're going to be a better person or a bitter person. That's your choice. Bitter, better. Bitter, you're going to, bring yourself down every day after that, and you're going to bring everybody around you down also. Better, yes. Maybe as an experience, you learn a little bit more and then you kind of move on. Very heavy for both of you?
No, that's very insightful. I like that. I like that you touched on entrepreneurship as well. If you left DLF today, what would you want to do? What would you want to start? What would you want to build?
I love building brands.
Mm-hmm.
That's what my forte is, right? From scratch to whatever. I like that challenge. I pick up everything, whatever, whether it's a process or a product. I like to make it a brand, and then I like to monetize it. So should that ever happen, I mean, I don't know whether, first of all, two things. First of all, whether I want to work anything or anywhere else, or maybe I want to pursue something else in life, or I do something in a way where, but whatever I do, or I don't know, as I said, but definitely my forte, as I said to you, is building brands, putting my might behind them, and of course later monetizing it. It's a commercial world, you need to do that. Yeah,
That's absolutely beautiful. I think two important questions. One is there been a piece of advice that you've received that you've had close to yourself over your career? And if you could leave anyone in their 20s listening to this with a piece of advice, what would that be?
live for the day, but your conscience is going to prick you if you don't put in that kind of an effort. Okay, don't get ahead of yourself. Don't worry about what's going to happen in the future. That day, whatever task you have for that day, whether it's just, maybe that task was just cleaning your cupboard, maybe it was just going cycling, maybe it was creating a new code, maybe it's interviewing people. That day, do it well. That moment, be in that moment, love that experience, love what you're doing that day. Whatever, you'll be surprised that these are going to be your building blocks. You will, whatever you do, every little thing will teach you that. But enjoy for that, give it your best, and leave the rest to the universe, because that's what, I mean, whatever little advice, 20s, first of all, they know it even more than you do. So everybody knows everything. But, and we've all been through it, so you don't want to listen to anybody, so that's all gyan. I'm not going to get into that, but enjoy that day. But do it the best. If you don't do it, you will know. And then move on to the next thing. But whatever you take on, my only advice, if I can, is just do that thing very, very well.
I really like that piece of advice, because that's one thing I think young people definitely struggle with is, they big lofty dreams and they want to do everything together, but what they don't realize is it's the little things that stack up over time, and that's what will make any difference. So I really like the way you said
even
that.
the loft, you have to,
Of course, yes.
climb up, right? You can't jump up to a loft, right?
Mm-hmm.
One step. So yes, today the situations and the environment is very conducive for you to take an escalator. So you don't have to slog, don't take the stairs, but you still have to take something, right? Mm-hmm. Whether it's an elevator or an escalator, but it's great fun. As long as you can enjoy the journey, and then wherever life takes you.
That's such a beautiful message. Live your day, do your best, enjoy the journey, and keep watching Panoramic Perspectives. We love you guys. Thank you for tuning in.